when I watched the RNC, I was like really, really patriotic. They made me feel like this is what it means to be American. This is what America stands for. I learned about perseverance and, overcoming odds and fixing our economy and America first and Old Glory, red, white, and blue. And was nothing about your color or whether I was black, white, anything like that. It was just all like, no matter what your race, color, gender, ethnicity is, you can do this because America allows you opportunity. And I really felt good when I was watching the RNC, like, wow. And I'm not a Republican. Because I've gone independent because I don't want to choose a party, but I do want to choose an idea. And my idea is about being an American, not being black, not being white, not being orange or purple, just being an American. And everything I think, every idea I has to do with making America a better country. And I fly my flag proudly, red, white, and blue. And I fly my Navy flag out in my backyard very proudly. I served, I fly it. But then I'm watching the DNC and everything was about race, 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 women, women, gender, race, race, gender, race, women, women, race, 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 women, gender. And I was like, ugh. And I was like, that's why I left that party. Everything was identity. Like, who are you? And the most minor things like your color, your sexual orientation, your things that you can't change, things you have no control of. That was the agenda. And it was very little about America. It was about, dividing. And I'm just really pissed that that's what that party has become. It is a divisive party who only want to talk about race and gender and sexuality. Is that what we've become as a country? It's pretty sad.
Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy.
Can I just interject here for a second? This woman's really scary. She could easily get elected president. She's much more skillful than I have ever seen. She's a liar on the deepest level. The things she is saying right now are not just untrue. They're the opposite of the truth, which is the hallmark of evil. She's an extremist. She'll say anything. She's much more like Gavin Newsom than I ever realized. I could go through a whole litany of why what she's saying is not true. It wasn't an armed mob. There's not one person inside the Capitol with a firearm.
As you guys probably noticed, for the last couple of days since I've been covering the DNC convention, I've been feeling like the messaging isn't like it. I don't feel like they're even trying to make a play for my vote, right? I'm an independent. I admit I'm a conservative independent, so most of the time, I'm probably gonna vote for Republican. But that's the sentiment I got. That's the intro. The intro perfectly encapsulated from my elderman there. And my dad is kind of what this guy is. My dad, it was I think he was an independent voter, if I remember correctly. Then he registered as a Democrat. Then he became independent again. But my dad voted for Trump, right? My dad voted for Obama. Then he voted for Mitt Romney. Then he voted for Trump, I think 2016, 2020. And me and him, we talk about politics all the time. It may be Kamala's convention, but Trump is getting the surge. And I think the intro and the sentiments that I'm pushing out is that there's nothing of substance coming from the DNC. The DNC kept pushing about joy, and joy isn't going to fix our problems. She have not made one mention about inflation. She has not made one mention about the open border. She tried to paint herself as if she was tough on the border. When if you look at the stats, if you just look at it objectively, there was more border crossings under Biden than Trump. Just looking based on the numbers. Biden had more border crossings in the first 2 years of his term than Donald Trump had his entire term as president. But they want to push this lie. And many people are starting to pick up on these lies. And this is one of the most frustrating things that I noticed about the DNC convention. It's just like it was a bunch of identity politics. men, who they want you to be. Oh, he represents a modern form of masculinity. I'm at this point where I'm like, yo, I want to reject most modern concepts, most modern trends, because essentially I'm not a trend follower. I don't care about trends. I look at it, I'm like, okay, let's see how it holds up. And based on scrutiny, it seemed like this new form of masculinity ain't holding up to much. I'm just saying. They want men to be passive. Like, it don't speak to me at all. And Democrats still have a men problem. They still pushing out their messaging is overwhelmingly feminine. Liberal women seems to love their messaging, but men don't really cater to their messaging that much. And I think this is a failure of the DNC, because the DNC feels more like a political theater than the Republican Party, right? You could say, oh yeah, they did all this, but end of the day, the RNC felt like, hey, we're honoring America. We're acknowledging that America is not in a good place, which most voters agree with. Remember, this is not The Guardian. Remember, The Guardian said that most Americans falsely believe that the U.S. is in a recession, but look at all the job numbers that came out. 818 jobs, inflated. You made up 818 jobs. How you overestimate your job numbers by 818,000? It will always be beyond me. Inflation compared to the past administration, up 20% on average, depending on what groceries you buy. This is a good economy? Are we on the right track? Kamala Harris on her opening speech honored Joe Biden and said that Joe Biden will have one of the most best records if you look back in history. And I'm looking back, in my humble opinion, in 20 years, when I'm 48 years old, I'm gonna be like, Joe Biden was worse than Jimmy Carter. That's how I think I'm gonna look back at this moment in history. But here's Kamala Harris praising him. So to me, Kamala Harris's messaging saying there's nothing wrong with the economy, which I find is tone deaf. But I digress. You have enough of ramblings about me. Check out this clip that I want you to see about this chief political analyst from Fox News, and see how he encapsulates pretty much Kamala Harris's rise in the media. Let's take a look.
More people than have ever seen her before will see her in one event. And what we're witnessing, Brett, is at least an attempt at political alchemy. Because it wasn't very long ago when Kamala Harris was regarded, certainly in Washington, where she'd been a senator and then vice president, as something of a laughingstock. She was given to these sudden outbursts of sentences that were put down by a lot of people as word salad. And she said some truly inane things. There's no doubt about that. It is also the case that she composed, through statements she's made and things she supported, a pretty radical record. In fact, she described herself as a radical. That's all now to be set aside. We should forget all those things. This woman we thought was kind of a silly person and kind of a giggling lightweight is presented now as Kamala, and this wonderful family woman who's never hesitated, as you heard, to reach across the aisle and all of the rest of it. And she will emerge here tonight. And the question is, will anybody buy it? Right. And I think a great many people will. All the people in this hall will. They've already clearly decided. Yeah. But it's a big task. Whether it will withstand scrutiny over time, don't know yet.
But I think that you have to trust the pilot of the plane in the first place. And the problem right now is that Donald Trump is not a trustworthy pilot. And what these guys are winning, they're winning the babysitter contest. Who do you want, whose values do you want to be in charge of the plane before we get where we're going? And I think you're getting smoked on that. And I think that's... How do you see it?
My brother.
Yes.
My brother. I have to tell you.
Please.
The current pilot of the plane is Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is not the pilot of the plane.
No,
He's right here.
And now listen, she's the vice president. She's a co-pilot. She's a co-pilot.
People have.
I agree on Van Jones's point there. Whose values do you want to represent you, right? And it seems like America, and look, all you have to do is look at the intro. I don't want someone who's vague. I don't have vague values. I stand on something. I stand for something. I don't fall for anything. And Kamala comes across as someone who will fall for anything because her positions are vague, still don't know her concrete policy positions. She's like trickling them out, right? Like piece by piece, dragging her feet to just give me the whole platform. Donald Trump gave me his policy position since I don't know when, since the beginning of his campaign in 2024. Agenda 47. And now the Democrats are trying to recreate his policy platform as Project 2025, actively lying to their voters. Why would I want a representative like that? Why do I want a representative who's been embellishing his military service to make himself look better than what he was. I'm talking about Tim Walz here. Kamala Harris, flip-flopper, considered the most liberal senator in Congress in 2019. Then GovTrack removed her record from there so she can sit here and play a moderate Kamala. Like, make it make sense. Here's a model of the updates. Trump is up on the polls. Still some uncertainty because of RFK's decision, which is today at the time of making this video. I'll probably react to that decision on my live stream tonight. Significant market moves in the past week, likely a combination of Harrising release an economic plan, highly unpopular, more Harris media exposure, and RFK's possible endorsement, and Donald Trump's up. When during conventions, it's usually the candidate of that convention usually gets a rise in the poll numbers, but the opposite is happening because the DNC keeps talking about Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, right? Kamala lashes out at Donald Trump during DNC acceptance speech. Trump tried to throw away your vote. Ironic from the person who didn't even get a single primary vote. Not a single person. The first time voters are actually going to vote for Kamala Harris is during November for Election Day. Imagine that. Trump won 3 primaries in his life. Kamala won primary by what? Default? By anointment? By delegates? Delegates can't even tell you one accomplishment she made, but they had the right to vote on your behalf to elect Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. And they wonder why people are walking away from the Democratic Party. The DNC messaging was totally tone deaf. I don't give a damn. Hey, look, y'all could debate me in the comment section. You could chastise me as a partisan. But honestly, I'm not as partisan as people try to paint me. I just follow the facts. And the fact of the matter is, you guys, the media, is trying to sell me a bill of goods called Kamala Harris. That's exactly what you're trying to do. Oh my gosh, she's such a joyous candidate. What is there to be joyous about? Everyone's struggling to live right now. Unemployment risen. Your job numbers were overstated, overinflated. People are struggling right now. People are having a hard time finding a job right now. There's layoffs happening at record amounts. And you keep trying to pretend that you can come save people. You may have good intentions, but the results are bad. The economic policies that Kamala Harris is putting out, such as giving people $25,000 as a down payment for first-time home buyers, that's going to cause more inflation. That's going to cause more pricing problems that you want to say you want to fix. The problem with Kamala Harris is she doesn't understand what she's doing. She doesn't understand economics because all her life she worked in the public sector. She never worked in the private sector. She doesn't understand that corporations have limited resources and they want to be as efficient as possible with those resources. The government's inefficient. This is why I like the idea of Elon Musk. And with Donald Trump, this is the number one reason I'm voting for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is having a bunch of smart people around him. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK possibly. Like, if you want to look at moderate, if you truly in the middle, and this is why I laugh about people who claim themselves to be moderate. I feel like people wear moderate or centrism as a skin suit. Because every centrist I seem to talk to or seem to see, they seem to be like a liberal. They just look left-wing to me. I'm like, yo, you're not a centrist. You're not actually hearing the rights, the conservative side of the argument. You're only hearing the left side of the argument, and you giving some cadence to the right. But you don't actually hear the right's positions on things. We want to defund the Department of Education. Then the Mario will pretend, oh my God, that's a bad policy, Kenny. Like, there's no way you should be able to do. That's not a good idea. I said, why is it not a good idea to remove a service, a department that is not actually doing what it was intended to do in the first place? And then you give the history. Here, Department of Education. Before the Department of Education was created, USA had the #1 education in the world in the 1970s. After the Department of Education was created in 2008, we was ranked 24th in education. That means we went down 33 places down after you created this Department of Education, which was supposed to make a template and give it to all of Americans to equalize the outcome, right? Make it make sense. 76% of our kids are educated in the public school system. Yet we have a worse off education than we did in the 1970s. How we got worse as we invest more money into education. Does that not make sense to you? But I want kids to read. Kids ain't learning how to read now. Kids barely know how to read now. Kids are being taught about activism and all this other BS. But God forbid conservatives want their values reflected in public education. But it seems like we always want to reflect liberal leftist ideology in public schools. You're allowed to teach 1619, which is revisionist history, in public schools, but God forbid PragerU wants to teach their framing of history in public schools. Make it make sense. A moderate will be like, I want both sides positions to be represented in a single class and have it more a substantive, like having the kids say, hey, let's write an essay on which side you agree with. Which framing of history do you agree with and why? That's how I think a centrist should think. And this is why I say I'm really just a moderate Republican. I'm a moderate conservative. I'm not really as partisan as the left tries to pretend, or my detractors in my comment section try to pretend that I am. Kenny, you're biased. Yes, I'm biased towards the facts. I'm biased towards results. And if you can prove the results to me, if you can prove the outcomes, the approach, I'll agree with you. Right? If you could prove to me that systematic racism is a bigger problem than your own decision making, I'll agree with you. But you're gonna be hard pressed to find that. Wealth gap? Anyone? Wealth gap. Oh, couldn't the wealth gap just be due to the fact that black people have a younger average age compared to other groups of other races of people, such as the white community? The average age for the white community is like 55 years old, if I remember correctly. The average age of the black community is like 33. Half of the black population is under the age of 30. Look up the data. So if older Americans, and this is an assumption I'm making, if older Americans generally make more money than younger Americans, wouldn't that explain the wealth gap? Oh, but no, but race is racism. You focus on one factor to explain all the disparities between groups when that is not the case. That's not scientific. Scientific is a what? Multivariable analysis. There's multiple variables that play a part into why disparities appear. My argument is more personal than external. But that's just me. That's just how I think about things, right? And I noticed I didn't play a single speech from Kamala Harris, but is there any need to? Like, I mean, you guys gonna hear it. Well, like y'all gonna see a bunch of clips. Kamala says she will restore abortion rights. Abortion is not a right, in my view, anyway. It's a privilege, right? Abortion rights is the same thing as saying slavery rights. Like, you don't have the right to make a decision on someone else's body. Women, you don't have the right to dictate whether your offspring is to live or die. It's an ethics problem. You still haven't been able to explain the ethics of that, of your position, and you want to pretend that most Americans agree with you. I believe most Americans believe in safe, legal, rare. So the moderate position is, hey, we can exclude abortion for non-medical reasons. Rape, incest of the mother, whatever you want. Because I know, I already went down the data statistics. 95% of abortions are due to the fact that women just don't want the baby. Perfectly healthy babies. 95% of abortions are aborting healthy babies with no risk to the mother. So if I say, okay, we only gonna ban abortion on elective abortions. Everything, if it's medical, you got medical reasons for wanting to do it, you're allowed to get an abortion. The left will still say no. So there's no real compromise here. But the right is always expected to compromise on these issues. And this is the problem I have with moderates. The moderates expect the right to compromise, but they don't expect the left to compromise. Is the reasonability problem here? People always want to cater to the most reasonable person in the interaction because they know the unhinged person is never going to back down. And moderates want to pretend, oh my God, we just want a third party option. No, you don't. RFK ran as a third party and y'all didn't support him. So you're lying out of your mouth. Like I said, I only look at results. I don't look at your intentions. Oh, we want a third party. Look, overwhelmingly, most Americans do not vote or not register Democrat or Republican. Third party candidate arrives. Still both parties win. Like, make it make sense. Change is not going to happen until you decide you want to change America. And that's why I go like, yo, like end of the day, I can't really fault the politicians. I can't really fault these people because end of the day, they keep winning. You prove to them, you keep giving them success, and they're going to keep running on it, right? You got teachers unions. You got Elizabeth Warren claiming that Kamala will lower grocery prices after inflation skyrocketed under Biden-Harris administration. Like, she's the co-pilot here. For 3.5 years, she's been the co-pilot of this administration. And groceries have never been lower in her groceries has only been higher since she came into office with Joe Biden. And I expect the same person that got the prices up to bring it down. And the first economic policy she bring out, widely unpopular, everyone condemned it, saying this is crazy. You're going to make the problem worse. This was all flash, no substance. Like the DNC, like I said, it was tone deaf. I ain't feel compelled to vote for Kamala Harris. I feel like you trying to scam me. But, that's just my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section below. Do you agree with me, disagree with me? I'd like to hear all your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate you guys watching the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.